Hey, welcome to our show this week. We're joining you from downtown Lake City. I know many of you that as you travel north, I'm sure that you've recognized this place, this sign, because you've driven by it. We're super excited for today's show to be in a unique setting and have some different opportunities to be on the lake and be around some of the awesome landmarks of beautiful Lake City. I moved here in 2006 and have called it home since. It's a great place to raise a family and super excited about the show today. Stay tuned for all the fun that's about to come your way.
Retiring Well. Brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well. Plan to retire well.
Hey Art, thanks for joining us, and we're super excited to bring the show from beautiful Lake City, Michigan. We have Lake Missaukee in our background. It's my hometown since 2006. So we're excited to let you have a new experience here with the TV show here at Retiring Well and be right on location. You know, one thing that if you want to accomplish anything is you need to set some goals. And one of the things that we encourage you to do is spend some time, Art, where they get to reflect on what are we trying to accomplish? What are we trying to accomplish, in a personal life? What are we trying to accomplish in a financial life? What do we want our legacy to look like? So a lot of these topics we're going to be able to hit today on the show, and just wanted to talk about some of the experiences that we see in our different offices.
Yeah, when we think of goals, Jack, I know in a little bit here you're going to get a chance to show us one of the things you're passionate about in your personal life with water skiing, and helping learn that and having those goals of that. Obviously, there's many disparate aspects, when you're on the water and skiing and stuff like that, of what are you trying to accomplish and what do we want to do? When we think of that in the financial world, and specifically when we focus on retirement planning, oftentimes in our industry, we find that too often financial advisors jump to wanting to sell something. They jump to what is the solution? Well, first we have to figure out what are we trying to accomplish? Everybody and every single person that we've talked to has a different goal. There might be similar, but at the same time, if maybe you're coming into retirement soon, you have a passion for travel, or maybe it's grandkids, or maybe it's philanthropic stuff where you want to volunteer and give back to your area and community or needs. And all those things are going to require different solutions to that. But first, it's vital that we understand the goals of what you're trying to do so we can put plans in place to do that. If you see that somebody's rushing to a solution, there should be some questions asked of why is this the best for me, or how is this going to accomplish my goals? And so walking through that is vitally important, whether you're doing financial planning or any other thing in life.
Absolutely. In the Cadillac office, I will find a lot of times people will come in and they'll have all of their stuff, they'll throw it on the table, and they'll want to get these, things, investments talked about right away. And I just have to slow them down and say, hey, we got to back up. We need to first start with what are you trying to accomplish? Catch me up on what your life has been like. Fill me in on those different goals that Art had talked about that you might still want to accomplish. And then after we have figured out the goals and really worked through all of those details, now we can start taking that process that we've really refined here at Centennial, where we can go through a process and we can say, hey, there are steps to this process, and there's information that we want to gather, and there's puzzle pieces that we want to uncover, because once we see all the puzzle pieces, now we can start talking about what some of those solutions are. Now our advice just becomes even more powerful because we have data behind it. I think about all of my years teaching water skiing. I've taught so many people how to water ski, from my 2-year-old niece to my own kids when they were just as young, to people that are more experienced in life and have some more years under their belt. But my point is there's a process, and I've seen them want to run out there with a little life jacket and these skis from the 1950s. Nothing against those kind of skis, but things have changed. Time has changed, equipment has changed. There's a process that we can go through when you teach somebody how to water ski that sets them up for the best probability of success. And so I get to find that we do that a lot at Centennial, where we can bring people through the process and give them the best possible chance of success.
Absolutely, Jack. And we're so excited to be here in this beautiful Northern Michigan community today, and we hope you find this show exciting, fun, and a little bit different, and make those connections and through those stories, through the different areas that we're going to visit today. And just like today, making those goals and connections in your retirement plan so you can plan to retire well.
If you like watching Retiring Well, make sure to go to youtube.com/retiringwell and click the subscribe button to never miss any of our TV shows and other informative videos.
Hi, my name is Jack Klunder, and I am a financial advisor with Centennial Wealth Advisory. I work out of our Cadillac office, and we specialize in retirement planning. We take a very holistic approach. We start with investments and see how you're situated there. We do wealth management. We do income planning. We do tax planning, any kind of healthcare issues or needs that you might have for insurance. And then we talk about what your legacy plan might be. So if you are nearing or in retirement and you have questions that you want to go over, please give the number on the screen a call, and we can have and set up a free, no obligation consultation. Hey John, it's so fun to be here out on the water on Lake Missaukee here in Lake City, hometown. And anytime you're on the water, you want to be thinking risk mitigation strategies. And I can't help, because of what I do, have such an easy parlay over to the work that we do here at Centennial Wealth, where we're constantly helping people learn about the different risk mitigation strategies that are out there. In a little bit, you'll get to see some of the different strategies in the process that we go through to teach safely how to water ski, how to wakeboard, how to barefoot ski, all of those different activities. In order to give yourself the best chance of success, you got to know what the risk mitigation strategies are. One thing that we started off here is, where's the calm shore? Well, it's beautiful. Every lake has a calm shore. But what we find is a lot of times you got to pound through the waves to get to that calm shore. I think there's a lot of overlap with retirement planning, where, we have to pound through some waves and we have to fight through some wind to get to those calm shores. But man, when we get to those calm shores, it's a completely different experience.
Yeah, so true. And that's where I think about within investment planning. I mean, a lot of times people have their combination of, say, stocks and bonds are most common, and they sort of assume, the bonds are going to be more of that calm shore that Jack's referencing. But we find ourselves here where the first half of 2022, we've seen both stocks and bonds fall, which which doesn't happen all that often. I think going back in history, we're looking at about 16 quarters in the market where we've seen that happen, maybe 17 quarters, going back to 1976, where both stocks and bond market, S&P 500 aggregate bond index, have fallen. So it's one of those situations where a lot of times at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we might be looking more at what are some different actively managed strategies where they're going to utilize those stocks and bonds, but perhaps they, one strategy started the year maybe more heavier equity, 78% equity exposure, has maybe drawn it back to about 34% equity exposure by midway through 2022. So it's one where, again, they're making changes, trying to adapt to what's happening in the overall stock market, what's happening in the overall economy. So that's one type of risk mitigation strategy that you may want to consider for your retirement plan.
Absolutely, and I love that John also gets to talk about, what do we have for bond alternatives? We have being independent, a great resource and can add a lot of value. There are insurance products out there that can remove you from market risk. You can get fixed rates. You can know exactly what the contractual return is going to be for the said time period. That's no market risk. That's a great feature for a lot of our clients as they either prepare for or get into retirement. If they want to keep their mind sane, and if they want to retire well, if they want to have some peace in their plan, we got to take some risk out a lot of times because that's what they're comfortable with. And to use a skiing analogy, that's why when a first-time skier comes out, I say, let's jump on the boom. It's a great way to build a foundation. It's a great way to understand how the process works. And then if they have a bigger appetite for more risk, then we just keep going through the stages. We can get them on the short line, okay, and let them mimic what it's like to ski, but not have the security of the boom. A little bit more risk, a little bit more fun. And then you can progress all the way to long line, going behind the boat. Communication changes, fun freedom changes, risk increases for not only the skier, for also the boat driver. And so I think what is great about what we get to do is we get to be, that boat driver. And
yeah, so true. And it's one of those things that I find myself now as I'm 40 years old and grew up. My parents built a cabin on Platte Lake in Benzie County in the late 70s and everything. And so I grew up on the kneeboard and on the wakeboard. For whatever reason, I never got into water skiing. I was more of a downhill skier in the wintertime. But I think about now looking back, some of the dumb things I did as a kid, and now as being 40 years old, okay, maybe I don't want to take as much risk when I'm wakeboarding. Maybe just going back and forth across the wake, a little jump maybe here and there. That may be similar to you and your retirement plan, whereas time moves along, you might find yourself in a position where, well, maybe I don't want to take as much risk. So if those are things that have caught your attention and want to discuss further, we'd love to sit down with you for a no cost, no obligation second opinion and help you plan to retire well.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
Here we are in beautiful Lake City. We're on the public docks here on Lake Missaukee and just having a great time. And so today, though, on this segment, we're going to be talking more about holistic planning and what that word really means. I mean, it's one for Centennial Wealth Advisory. We're looking at all of these different areas of retirement planning versus just specifically looking at investments. I think too often a lot of financial advisors, they're focused solely on one aspect of your retirement plan, which is typically the investments, and they sort of assume maybe that you have a plan just simply based on whatever number shows up on that statement. But that ultimately isn't the facts, right?
Absolutely, right? I mean, we've enjoyed this time here in Lake City. Obviously, Jack gets to call it home all the time. You know, and I think of like planning vacations and stuff like that, and people do that. When you plan a vacation, you don't just plan one thing or one area of the trip. You need to map out where you're going to stay, where you're going to eat, how you're going to get there, all this holistic approach to your vacation. Well, you're not going to just focus on one thing in your retirement plan like that. So why not have all these pieces together when you're building out that plan, so you don't just have a faulty plan that has one thing?
Yeah, and as we're here on the lake, I think of like income planning, mapping out that long-term income plan. You think of retirement's like 20 to 30 years of unemployment. So mapping that out, making sure that you have predictable, sustainable income that you can count on. But that sort of goes hand in hand with taxes, which is an area that I think a lot of people are fearful of or don't really pay enough attention to. And as I think about water skiing, as we got a chance to see Jack and his kids on the lake here today, you think about that comfort of maybe being on two skis and what that feels like. Most people are doing that when they're water skiing, but what if we were to look at this from a perspective of, hey, we want to drop that one ski and go to slalom skiing, and how much cooler and more fun that is. But what about if we take that analogy and we look at it from the perspective of taxes in retirement? Let's imagine that second ski is Uncle Sam, who has he's the partner in your retirement plan. So if you have those 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, and all the like, where ultimately you have a tax deferred type of an account that eventually you're going to be paying some taxes, and it could be pretty hefty taxes if you don't map out a plan. So one of the things that we do at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we have a tax team that looks specifically at not just what taxes are you paying on your retirement accounts and all the other income that you have today, but what does that look like maybe, again, 20, 30 years down the road, especially if you're in a situation where you've built up this IRA 401k assets, and what if you're just to wait until age 72? That's ultimately the plan that the government has for you, at least as of right now, when you have those required minimum distributions. So if you don't have a plan, the government ultimately has a plan in place for you. I don't know if that's going to necessarily be the best plan for your long term.
Absolutely. You know, oftentimes if you're just relying on that government plan, you potentially have missed many years of opportunity to help that tax planning. And as John talked about, I like that, you know, dropping that ski, dropping Uncle Sam, or at least maybe letting him trail behind a ways so that way you maybe don't have the full consequences of that. But it also just makes me think, you know, this is the time, you know, if you're early in retirement or just getting into it, what an optimal time to be doing some planning and having that second set of eyes on this and allowing us to take a look at that, you know, and here at Centennial Wealth, helping you plan to retire well. It doesn't just mean picking stocks and bonds and building this portfolio and looking at a balance on your statement. As John talked about, there's so much more. You know, I think of, as John come off tax planning, and then now you have healthcare planning comes coinciding with that, not only with pre-Medicare, but then Medicare timeframes and what all of that stuff sort of happens. So I know, John, you know, as here in Northern Michigan, we love sitting down with people and looking at that and having those opportunities to have those conversations.
Yeah, and just a quick promo for Lake City. I mean, we've really enjoyed the time that we spent here, and there's great opportunities for great food and enjoying some tasty treat ice cream at the end of the day. Very rewarding, and so it's one of those where we encourage you to get out to Northern Michigan and enjoy all the different areas. And if you're in a situation where you maybe haven't had that second opinion on your overall retirement plan or some of these topics that we talked about today with tax planning and trying to get Uncle Sam out of your retirement plans, we'd welcome you to give us a call for a no-cost, no-obligation visit and let us help you plan to retire well.
You can have a portfolio, or you can have a plan. You can play it safely, or you can safely plan. You can guess when to take Social Security, or you can make your decision based on detailed analysis. You can hope your savings will last your entire retirement, or you can take action and know. You can let life happen to you, or you can take control. You can go it alone, or you can have an experienced guide ready to walk with you every step of the way. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial planners serving all of northern Michigan, offices in Gaylord, Petoskey, Traverse City, and Cadillac. Simply call the number on your screen for a complimentary initial consultation and let us help you plan to retire well.
If you like watching Retiring Well, make sure to go to youtube.com/retiringwell and click the subscribe button to never miss any of our TV shows and other informative videos.
Hey Art, what a great day. You know, after a long day of maybe facing some fears, going through some of the challenges of skiing, what my kids and I love to do is come down to Tasty Tree. And if you've been around the Lake City area, I know you've seen this landmark. It's an awesome place to reflect. And when we reflect on those goals that they've accomplished, it's always bringing up such great memories, and we get to enjoy a treat as we go along. You know, it also makes me think about, how do you optimize your legacy? You start looking back over some things in your life that you've set as goals. Are those in good order? You know, or what do you need to do to make sure that you can optimize that legacy?
Absolutely, Jack. You know, I think of, you know, when you're out there having fun and you're living life, and you know, so much we talk about goals of income and all that sort of stuff, but oftentimes we have these really enjoyable but crucial conversations where these folks are going to have this money they're not going to spend, or they really want to make sure they leave that lasting impact, whether that's for family members, spouse, or maybe there's a special organization in mind that you have. There's so many different avenues of approaching that, but it's critical that you have a plan for that, because not only is the money piece involved, but there's other assets that could be involved. But then from a tax perspective, for you, for maybe and your heirs and your grandchildren, or whoever you're leaving this behind, how can you do that? So Jack, you know, one of the things I think about this is all the different tools that are available out there, you know, and from that, and walking through, and each individual person could be something different.
You know, when I'm in the Cadillac office right down the road from here, I find a lot of times that people haven't really assessed the assets that they've acquired, and they don't have them covered. What I mean by that is those assets, a lot of times we find they don't know where to go upon death. And so when we do our first meetings, we're constantly bringing up different ideas of, hey, what do you have, and does that asset know where to go? Some of the most common that I find that assets that are not covered is the house. You know, you have this beautiful property that you've, you know, lived in for years, and upon your death, it doesn't know where to go. You know, that's a problem. We should look into that. That might be a worry of yours. You know, it's something that we can help with. The other biggest one that I see a lot of times are bank accounts. Just a simple TOD or POD needs to be attached to that asset, so that in the terrible event of death, that it knows where to go, and you don't have to have more headache and pain and time and suffering.
Absolutely. You know, Jack, when you were talking about that, it makes me think, and we're standing here in front of the ice cream shop, you know, oftentimes these families may have these conversations, or even maybe if you're married, you and your spouse have these ideas of where you want your assets to go. And oftentimes it doesn't go any further than that conversation. It may be great if you've talked about this, but having those documents and and making sure legally those assets do know where to go, because the worst thing in the world is something happens to you and the next generation or somebody's taking over that, and there's challenges, the probate courts and all that sort of stuff. So make sure that you do have that plan and it's on paper, and you walk through and you have the proper legal documentation for that. And it's more than just a conversation. That conversation is critical, but having those documentations to do that is vital.
Yeah, and I love that we get to solve a lot of those problems. We first identify them. People come in all the time with a bunch of worries, and we say, don't let fear win. We fight fear with fact, and here's the facts, now let's do something about it. I recently had a case in the Cadillac office where their number one goal was to make sure that some of their assets, some of their IRA money would be left to the kids. And so we went through how it was positioned currently and found that, there's a life insurance policy product that is going to help optimize their legacy. It's going to grow that potential death benefit, upon their passing. And one of their goals of passing on their money actually just got increased because they learned something. It was a problem that was identified, and then we started figuring it out. And so those are powerful experiences to have.
Absolutely. And folks, as you've hopefully enjoyed this show here and enjoyed being on location with us in Jack's hometown here, hopefully you had some valuable takeaways, and even here as we kind of wrap up this event with that legacy optimization, get your facts, get your information, sit down. We'd love to have a chance to work with you and talk through these situations from you and educate you on all the different options that are available, the advantages and disadvantages of certain decisions that you're making along the way, and how that can be helpful. All the different planning aspects in there so you can plan to retire well.
Living life isn't always easy. It puts up challenges and obstacles you'll have to overcome. There are responsibilities. You put in effort to provide and take care of your family, to save and invest, to balance work and life. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well.
At Centennial Wealth Advisory, we take a holistic approach to your retirement planning. So it's not just looking at what your investments are, but what is that long-term income plan for the next 30, 40 years of your retirement? What about taxes and what role they play in your retirement plan? Estate planning, what about life insurance, health insurance planning, all key areas to consider when looking at your retirement. So please visit our website or call the number on the screen. We'd love the opportunity to sit down with you for a no-cost, no-obligation visit.
Hey, thanks again for tuning in to this week's show here on Retiring Well. Thanks for coming along on our field trip in Lake City. We hope you have a great week. Tune in next week, same time, same place.